Look, I have been working with predatory fauna for 17 standard cycles, right? 17. I have handled everything from the triple-jawed snappers of Kellyan Prime to the acid-spitting horrors that guard the breeding grounds on TEV-9. I have scars on 3 different appendages, and a prosthetic eye that cost me half a year's salary. So when I tell you that the creature in Containment Bay 7 was absolutely, categorically, 100% untamable, you better believe I knew what I was talking about. The thing was a Vorathian Ripper. 6 tons of muscle, bone plating, and pure aggressive intent. 4 legs thick as cargo pylons. Claws that could shred through reinforced durasteel like it was tissue paper. A mouth full of serrated teeth that regenerated every 30 days. And the temperament. Oh, the temperament was the real prize. These things were engineered by the Vorathian military as frontline assault beasts during the expansion wars. They had rage literally bred into their genetic code. Not metaphorically. Literally. There were anger glands in their neural tissue. This particular specimen, which I had brilliantly named Murderfang, had already hospitalized 4 handlers, killed 2 maintenance drones, and eaten an entire medical bay worth of sedatives with 0 effect. Command wanted it either trained for perimeter defense or destroyed. I was voting very strongly for option 2. Then the humans showed up, well, 1 human. Her name was Dakota Reeves, and she looked about as threatening as a Peluvian dust mite. Maybe 5.5 feet tall in your Earth measurements. Brown hair tied back in something she called a ponytail. Wearing their standard issue jumpsuit, but rolled up at the sleeves like she was about to fix a leaking pipe, not face down a biological war machine. She had this easy smile that made my secondary stomach churn with anxiety. So, she said, peering through the observation window at Murderfang, who was currently trying to bite his own reflection, what seems to be the problem? I stared at her. My translator implant made a little clicking sound, because it thought it had malfunctioned. What seems to be the, excuse me, what? The problem. With the big guy. She tapped the glass. Murderfang immediately lunged at the window, cracking it slightly. We both stepped back. Well, I stepped back. She just tilted her head, like she was watching something mildly interesting on a data screen. The problem, I said slowly, because apparently humans needed things explained in small words, is that thing is a killing machine. Pure apex predator. Military-grade bioweapon. It cannot be trained, tamed, or reasoned with. Its brain is approximately 70% dedicated to identifying threats, and 30% dedicated to eliminating them. There is no room in there for concepts like obedience or restraint. She nodded along like I was explaining how the cafeteria worked. Got it, got it. Super aggressive. Red for violence. Probably never had any positive reinforcement training. Makes sense. Positive what? Can I go in there? I laughed. It came out as more of a choking sound, because my species does not really do humor when we are terrified. Absolutely not. Are you insane? It will tear you apart. I mean literally separate your limbs from your torso within seconds. Dakota shrugged. I mean, maybe. But I have worked with some pretty grumpy animals back home. Ever hear of a honey badger? A what? Exactly. Listen, Krevvor, she said my name perfectly on the first try, which never happens with humans. I appreciate the concern. Really? But I have been training aggressive animals since I was 12 years old. Dogs, horses, even helped rehabilitate a mountain lion once. This guy. She jerked her thumb at Murderfang. He is just scared. I felt my eye stalks retract in disbelief. Scared. That creature. Is scared. Oh yeah. Look at him. He is in an enclosed space he does not understand, surrounded by beings he has never seen before, probably poked and prodded and sedated a bunch of times. He is terrified. So he is doing what any scared animal does. Getting aggressive to keep everyone away. This was the most ridiculous thing I had ever heard. And I once heard a Galaxian argue that their gods lived in soup. That is, with all due respect, completely wrong. The biological imperatives of a Vorathian Ripper are, yeah, biological imperatives, genetic programming, I get it. But here is the thing about biology. It is flexible. Especially when it comes to behavior. Can I borrow your data pad? Before I could refuse, she had already plucked it from my equipment belt. She pulled up the creature's file, scrolling through screens of aggressive incidents, medical notes, and dire warnings. Okay, lots of attacking, lots of roaring, breaking stuff. Cool. Does he eat regularly? When we can get food into his containment, yes. Who feeds him? Automated delivery system. We tried manual feeding twice. Lost a handler both times. So he has never had a person give him food in a non-threatening way. Interesting. What does he eat? Primarily protein. Raw meat. About 40 kilograms per feeding cycle. She whistled. Big boy needs his calories. All right. Here is what I need. 10 kilograms of whatever his favorite meat is, cut into chunks about this big. She made a shape with her hands. A long stick, maybe 3 meters. And for everyone to stay in the observation room with the blast doors sealed. You are serious. Dead serious. Pun intended, but hopefully not literally. I wanted to refuse. I should have refused. But there was something about the way she said it, this calm confidence, that made me hesitate. Also, command had been breathing down my neck tubes for a solution. If a human wanted to get herself killed trying some primitive Earth nonsense, well, at least I could say we tried everything. 20 minutes later, Dakota stood in the decontamination airlock, holding a bucket of sliced thoracian flank meat, and a long composite pole we used for maintenance work. She had also, inexplicably, brought a small ball made of compressed rubber. Remember, I said over the intercom, my voice probably shaking more than I wanted to admit, the moment it charges, you hit the emergency beacon on your suit. We will flood the room with neural dampeners. Relax, Krevvor. I got this. She shot me a thumbs up, which I had learned was a human gesture of confidence. Or possibly a sign they have lost their minds. With humans it was hard to tell, the inner door hissed open. Murderfang was on her immediately. Not attacking, not yet, but every muscle tensed, head low, teeth bared. A sound rumbled from his chest that set off 3 different alarms on my monitoring equipment. It was the sound evolution designed specifically to trigger prey species panic responses. Dakota did not run. Did not scream. Did not even flinch. She sat down, just dropped right into a sitting position about 5 meters from the door. Set the bucket beside her. Held the pole across her lap. And waited. Murderfang's growl intensified. He took 1 step forward. Then another. His claws scraped grooves in the reinforced flooring. Every sensor in the observation room was screaming warnings. My second-in-command, Threx, had his hand on the emergency containment button. Give her a minute, I whispered, not sure why I was defending this clearly suicidal human. Dakota was not looking at Murderfang. Her eyes were fixed somewhere to his left. Her posture was relaxed, but not submissive. She was not challenging him, but she was not cowering either. She was just existing. In his space. Like it was the most natural thing in the universe. 30 seconds passed. Felt like 30 years. Murderfang took another step. He was close enough now that Dakota was well within striking range. 1 lunge and this would become a very short, very tragic story. Instead, she tossed a chunk of meat. Not at him. Just off to the side. He tracked its arc, head jerking to follow. The meat landed about 2 meters away. Murderfang stared at it. Looked at Dakota. Looked back at the meat. You could practically see his tiny military-grade brain trying to process this. Threat? Food? Both. He snatched the meat in 1 lightning-fast movement and retreated 5 steps. Dakota tossed another chunk. Same result. Grab, retreat. Then another. And another. Each time, Murderfang's retreat was a bit shorter. His body language shifted, just slightly, from coiled aggression to wary curiosity. What is she doing? Threx whispered. Classical conditioning, I murmured, remembering something I had read about Earth animal training. Associating her presence with positive stimuli. Food equals good. Human giving food equals good. Human equals maybe not threat. 20 minutes. That was all it took. 20 minutes of patient, quiet repetition. By the end, Murderfang was eating chunks of meat from a spot less than a meter from where Dakota sat today. His growling had stopped. His posture was almost, and I could not believe I was thinking this, relaxed. Then she did something that made my respiratory system briefly stop functioning. She picked up the ball and rolled it gently toward him. It bounced off his front leg. He jumped back, startled, staring at this strange new object like it had personally insulted his ancestors. Dakota just waited. After a moment, Murderfang approached the ball cautiously. Sniffed it. Then, and I have this recorded on 3 different camera angles, because nobody would have believed me otherwise, he picked it up in his mouth. Drop it, Dakota said, her voice calm and clear. He did not, obviously. He had no idea what those sounds meant, but when he turned his head, the ball fell out. It rolled back toward Dakota. She picked it up and tossed another piece of meat. Murderfang looked confused but ate the reward. She rolled the ball again. Same sequence. Ball. Confusion. Accidental drop. Reward. After the 4th repetition, something clicked. You could literally see it happen. Murderfang brought the ball closer to Dakota before dropping it. She smiled. Tossed him a bigger chunk of meat. Good boy. Good boy, you are such a good boy. And I swear, and you can court-martial me for saying this if you want, but that 6-ton engineered warbeast wagged his tail. The next morning, Command summoned me to a meeting. I had not slept. Could not sleep. My brain was still trying to process what I had witnessed. When I arrived at the conference room, Dakota was already there, looking annoyingly refreshed and sipping something from a metal container she called a thermos. Handler Krevvor, Commander Zelthis began, his 4 eyes narrowing in that way that meant someone was about to get assigned something terrible. I have reviewed the footage from Containment Bay 7. Multiple times, in fact, because I initially believed it was fabricated. It is real, sir. A human. Sitting on the floor. With a Vorathian Ripper. Playing fetch. Technically, Dakota interjected cheerfully, we had not gotten to actual fetch yet. That was more like accidental object exchange with positive reinforcement. But we can probably get to real fetch by this afternoon. Zelthis made a sound like escaping hydraulic pressure. This creature has been classified as untrainable by 6 different xenobiology experts. It has caused over 40,000 credits in damage. And you are telling me it can learn tricks? Oh, absolutely. I mean, his previous socialization was terrible, sure. But neurologically, he has got everything he needs. Problem-solving capability, pattern recognition, reward motivation. Someone just needed to actually work with him instead of against him. She took another sip of her drink. Also, nobody was using his name. I blinked. His name is Murderfang. His name was Murderfang. Which, yikes. How would you feel if everyone called you Deathbringer or Fleshrender? I have been calling him Bruiser. He seems to like it. It seems to like it, I corrected. It is a bioweapon. He is a dog. That is not even remotely, big dog. Scary dog. Really needs some dental work dog. But a dog. Trust me, I know dogs. Had 5 growing up. This guy has the same basic drive structure. Food, safety, social bonding. You just have to tap into it. Commander Zelthis rubbed his primary forehead ridge. Reeves, your orders were to assess the situation. Not to befriend a military-grade killing machine. With respect, sir, my orders were to determine if the asset could be salvaged for operational use. And he can. Give me 2 weeks, and I will have him responding to basic commands, walking on a lead, and performing defensive maneuvers on cue. The silence in the room could have suffocated a small planet. Finally, Zelthis spoke. You have 5 days. If that thing, if Bruiser shows any aggression toward personnel, this experiment ends immediately. Understood. Crystal clear, sir. I was assigned as Dakota's assistant. Not because I wanted to be, understand, but because someone with actual predator handling experience needed to document whatever insanity was about to unfold. Also, I think Command wanted a witness they could trust when this inevitably went sideways. Day 2. Dakota had fabricated a harness, because apparently humans put leashes on everything. Bruiser was not thrilled about the harness at first. Lots of growling, lots of backing away. But Dakota had infinite patience and an entire storage bay of thoraxian meat. An hour later, Bruiser was walking circuits around the containment area, harness on, occasionally looking back at Dakota like he was checking if he was doing it right. See, she said, slightly out of breath, because keeping pace with a 6-ton animal is exhausting even for humans. He wants to cooperate. He just needs to know what we want from him. This is still extraordinarily dangerous, I pointed out. One wrong move, one instinct trigger, and I react appropriately. Yeah. That is why we build trust first. He knows I am not a threat. I know his body language. We have got communication happening. You have had 2 days with him. I have had 2 very productive days with him. Watch this. She stopped walking. Bruiser kept going for a few steps, then noticed she had stopped and turned around. Bruiser. Sit. He stared at her. Obviously. He had no idea what that word meant, but Dakota just waited, holding a chunk of meat visible in her hand. Eventually, and I think mostly by accident, Bruiser's rear legs bent, and his haunches touched the ground. The moment they did, Dakota said yes. Good sit, and tossed him the meat. His tail did that wagging thing again. By the end of day 3, Bruiser was sitting on command about 60% of the time. Dakota had also taught him to stay, which mostly meant standing still for 5 seconds before getting a reward. Small victories, she called them. Foundation building. Threx watched one of these training sessions from the observation deck and leaned over to me. This should not be possible. Everything we know about Vorathian neural architecture suggests they cannot form positive associations with other species. Everything we know was apparently incomplete, I muttered. Day 4 was when things got interesting. And by interesting, I mean nearly catastrophic. A visiting security officer, some hotshot named Garnix from the Enforcement Corps, decided to observe the training. He had opinions. Many loud opinions about how humans were soft and did not understand real predator management. Dakota was working with Bruiser on recall training. She would walk backward, call his name, and reward him for following. Simple stuff. But Garnix kept interrupting over the intercom. Critique after critique about her posture, her tone, her methods. Finally, Dakota stopped and looked up at the observation window. Hey, Garnix. You are breaking my concentration. Can you maybe just watch quietly? I am a certified level 9 predator containment specialist. I think I know more about, Bruiser growled. Low and deep. His attention had shifted from Dakota to the observation window. To the voice that had an aggressive edge. To what his instincts registered as a potential threat, Dakota noticed immediately. Her whole demeanor changed. Garnix, stop talking. Right now. Excuse me. I will not be ordered around by, Bruiser charged the observation window. The same window he had cracked on day 1. His full weight slammed into the reinforced barrier, and multiple alarms started screaming. Dakota moved faster than I had ever seen a human move. She put herself between Bruiser and the window, arms out wide, voice loud and sharp. No. Bruiser, no. Leave it. He stopped. Barely a meter from her. Every muscle trembling. Saliva dripping from his teeth. That rumble in his chest that meant violence was about 3 seconds away. Dakota did not run. Did not flinch. Just stood there, making herself big, voice firm. Leave it. We do not charge windows. We do not attack friends. Leave it. The room was so quiet, I could hear my own circulatory system pounding in my ear canals. 10 seconds that felt like 10 years. Then Bruiser shook his head, like clearing water from his ears, and backed up 2 steps. The tension in his body eased, just slightly. Dakota immediately shifted her tone. Warm, praising. Good boy. Good, leave it. That was so hard, but you did it. Good boy. She produced a massive chunk of meat from her belt pouch, and tossed it to him. He caught it midair and retreated to the far corner to eat. She turned to the observation window, and her expression was ice. Get him out of here. Now. Before I come up there and explain through practical demonstration why you do not interrupt animal training. Garnix left. Quickly, that evening, I found Dakota sitting outside the containment bay, back against the wall, hands shaking slightly. Hey, I said quietly, settling down next to her with my legs folded in a way that probably looked ridiculous to human eyes. That was well managed. That was way too close. If he had not responded to the command, she trailed off, staring at nothing. I got cocky. Started thinking of him as a big sweet puppy. Forgot he still has all those predator instincts just under the surface. That was on me. You stopped a charge from a Vorathian Ripper using only verbal commands. That has never been documented. Ever. She laughed, but it sounded tired. Yeah, well, documentation does not mean much if I get someone hurt. Or if I get myself turned into a chew toy. She was quiet for a moment. You know what the scary part is? He was not trying to hurt me. He was trying to protect me. From what he perceived as a threat in that window. That is what happens when you build a bond. They start caring about you. Which means their protective instincts kick in. And with something that big and dangerous, protective instincts can be just as deadly as aggressive ones. I had not considered that angle. So what do? We keep training. We generalize his responses so he is calm around more people, more situations. We make sure he understands that not every loud voice or sudden movement is a threat. And we never, ever get complacent. She stood up, dusting off her jumpsuit. Come on. We have got one more day to nail this demonstration for command. Let us go see if Bruiser wants to learn how to shake hands. Or pause. Whatever. Day 5. Demonstration day. Half of command showed up, along with various department heads, security personnel, and several very nervous xenobiologists. They assembled in the observation room while Dakota and I entered the containment bay. Bruiser was waiting by the door. When he saw Dakota, his whole back end started wagging. 6 tons of engineered predator, wiggling with excitement like a puppy. It would have been hilarious if it was not so surreal. All right, buddy, Dakota said, scratching behind what I guess were his ears. Time to show everyone how smart you are. No pressure. She ran through the basics first. Sit. Down. Stay. Recall. Bruiser performed flawlessly, his attention locked on Dakota, responding to commands within seconds. The observation room was silent except for the scratching of data pads taking notes. Then Dakota pulled out the ball. Fetch. She threw it across the containment bay. Bruiser bounded after it, his massive form surprisingly graceful. He grabbed the ball, turned around, and brought it directly back to Dakota, dropping it at her feet. She rewarded him immediately. Good fetch. Such a good boy. From the observation room, I heard someone say impossible in about 4 different languages simultaneously. Dakota saved the best for last. She had been working on this one privately. Bruiser. Defense position. He moved to her left side, body angled slightly forward, posture alert, but not aggressive. Creating a protective barrier between Dakota and any potential threat. Then she said, release, and he relaxed, tail wagging again. Commander Zelphus's voice came over the intercom. Reeves? Have that animal perform the defense position while facing the observation window. Dakota nodded. She repositioned, gave the command. Bruiser responded perfectly. Facing the very window he had charged 2 days ago. But this time, controlled. Disciplined. Waiting for instruction. Release. He relaxed immediately, the intercom clicked off. Muffled conversation from above. Then Zelphus again. Handler Krevvor. Your assessment. I looked at Dakota, at Bruiser sitting calmly beside her, at the impossible thing they had accomplished together. Sir, I believe the asset is ready for operational deployment. With Specialist Reeves as primary handler. Agreed. Reeves, you have just been permanently assigned to Xenofauna Management. Congratulations. Try not to domesticate anything else this week. Dakota grinned. No promises, sir. As we left the containment bay that evening, Bruiser watching us go with what I swear looked like contentment in his eyes, I turned to Dakota. How did you know this would work? She shrugged. I did not. Not for sure. But here is the thing about humans. We have been partnering with predators for thousands of years. Wolves became dogs. Hawks became hunting partners. Even cats, which are basically tiny murder machines, we figured out how to live with. It is kind of our specialty. We look at something dangerous and think, what if we were friends instead? That is objectively insane. Yeah. She smiled. But it works. And you know what? She was absolutely right. Because 20 minutes after everyone said it was impossible, a human had a war beast fetching sticks. Never underestimate what those crazy primates can accomplish with enough patience, snacks, and the sheer stubborn refusal to accept that something cannot be done. I have been doing this job for 17 cycles. Guess I still have things to learn.